Greetings to all who are tuned in to this YouTube video. As you are aware, Rotary Club of Nairobi has turned 90 this Rotary year. And in order to commemorate our 90th anniversary, we are carrying out a series of YouTube videos with some of our prolific and well-known Rotary Club members. And today from Rotary Club of Nairobi, we have Rotarian Joan Sikand Esquire, who's going to be interviewed by our very own Rotarian, Dr. Margareta Wagasheru. And I am going to read out a brief introduction of Rotarian Joan from her very elaborate CV. She is an individual who's very passionate about wildlife and about conservation, but she's also a great poet. So in 2020, very recently, her book Sunflower, a memoir, is her latest book, which has been published by Path Press. In 2016 was a book called Mind, a Sacred Place. In 2014, her publication Makonde was released, and in 2010, her publication Meditations was released by Mvuli Africa Publishers. And of course, Dr. Margareta, who's interviewing Rotarian Joan, has carried out many reviews of her incredible pieces of writing. And Rotarian Joan Sikand is also an individual who has published many, many written pieces. She is currently a member of the Korean Society in New York. In 2018, the Korean Consulate in New York in November 2010, Columbia University Star Library, she donated various books and original indigenous Korean literature, including some scriptures. And from 2010 to present, she's involved with the Center for Korean Research in Columbia University, New York. In East African conservation, between 2010 to present day, she's a donor, development coordinator for the Wildlife Foundation in Nairobi, Kenya. Between 2010 and 2017, she has been a participant at the East African Wildlife Society. And she's also very active with the Friends of Karura Forest and Friends of Nairobi Arboretum, Friends of City Park, East Africa Wildlife Society, Friends of Nairobi National Park. And of course, she has been a Rotarian at Rotary Club of Nairobi since 2004. So this year, she completes 17 years of being a Rotarian at our club. What I'll also share with you is a wonderful piece which was written by a gentleman who has actually published her recent book, Mr. Bennett Johnson, and hopefully Rotarian Joan will tell us a bit more about him. He has written, "I have known Joan Sikand since 2010, when our company, Path Press, signed the first contract to publish her second volume of poetry, Makonde. It has been a true pleasure and honor for our publishing group to publish her extraordinary work. Path Press was formed in 1961 as the first Black publishing company in the United States of America, and we have worked with hundreds of writers and poets. Joan Sikand's sense of creativity and beauty of language are remarkable." With that, I will now invite Dr. Margareta Wagasheru to kindly introduce some questions to Rotarian Joan Sikand.
Thank you very much, President Rajesh. I think one thing that's very clear, bottom line for Joan Sikand, is she is an activist, an environmental activist, a human rights activist, and a writer, and a wonderful person. So Joan, welcome tonight. And let me ask you a few questions. Could you, as a Rotarian, could you tell us a little bit about what it was about Rotary that actually appealed to you, and how specifically you decided to join our Rotary Club of Nairobi?
Former members to the Rotary Club of Nairobi were one Dr. Mary Nelson, and she was a dear, dear, dear friend to me. And also Rotary Club of Nairobi was a guy called Robert Kerr, who was the attaché for public relations at the time that I was introduced to Rotary Club of Nairobi. But chief amongst my reasons was to be a colleague of Dr. Mary Nelson. And her illustrious story goes back decades, and her contribution, to Kenya. So why Dr. Mary Nelson? Well, so as we know, she passed away in tragically, I think it was July of 2019, Mitesh, right? July, right? 2019.
Correct.
And her contribution, actually, what would compel me to love Dr. Mary Nelson with such passion was her commitment to education, was her commitment to youth. She herself had lost 2 children. Her story was that in the 1980s, she was one of the first pioneering Black Americans to achieve PhD status in her field. Her field was education. And she marries Dennis. And Dennis was a Vietnam War vet. And this is civil rights, and they're marching and they're screaming their heads off. What the heck do you mean? And they have 2 little kids, Verna and Denise. And Dr. Nelson, as we had all known her, was a personality not to forget ever, because she was so committed. And again, what I had in high esteem with her was our passion for education, was our commitment to child welfare. You don't mention those issues, but if ever you want to talk about that, I've got a huge background in the area of both education, child welfare, child psychology. And I do education. I know kids. Ask me a question, and she was passionate about education, and I loved her for her true commitment. So that's why I joined Rotary, to hang with Dr. Nelson. And then she passed away from pancreatic cancer. I'm like, what the heck? And I still marched on because, arrive, here I am. I might as well stay at Rotary and see what I can do. And
Wonderful.
We keep hanging
Yes.
out, and it's great
Yeah.
stuff.
No, wonderful. Well, now tell us, as President Ritesh pointed out, you wear many hats, that of a lawyer, a writer, an environmentalist, an activist. Now, which of these hats do you feel best suits you, and which best reflects your relationship with Rotarians?
Humanitarian. The only thing left talking anything humanitarian are the Rotarians. Everyone else gave up. And still at Rotary, people, I don't know, so far as I can see, I think Dr. Manachandari just recently had, I think Ashok Shabai, Ritesh, I think, like Dr. Chandaria is like, I don't know. It's kindness. Rotary still stands for kindness, that's a normal thing. It's, it's not normal, to be vicious and stupid and cutting down trees. I don't know. That's definitely demonic. What is normal is to think carefully. What is normal to have sequential logic, and the logic is that to be a better human being, you've got to do something better than to just morph. And God gives you time on this planet, Margaret, and you better get better. I was just reading all your articles. You better just
Wonderful.
She lived, I don't know. And Margaret, I think you're pretty fearless.
Oh, thank you very much. Now listen, one of your keynote activist experiences is in the environment. And Rotary has just recently made environment and preservation and conservation one of its key points of interest. So what do you think, you as a Rotarian, as an environmentalist, how can you contribute to Rotary with that wonderful fervor and commitment you've got to preserving the environment? Give us a bit of your background and what you have done with the environment.
Let's talk about nano. Nano means 9. What do they 90? That's this very senior time for Rotary. And it parallels, all I know are non-engineerians. My mother was born in 1929, Siniju, North Korea. My publisher, Bennett Johnson, was born in 1929. Alabama, I don't know, I gotta look it up. My father-in-law, who's extremely dear to us, was born in 1929, which was then Lucknow. No, I'm sorry, Punjab. So 90 years. In 90 years, um, our planet has been completely mutilated by humanity. And it's terrible what we've done. And again, the issue is what I loved with Dr. Mary Nelson was that, oh my God, what are we doing with our kids? What are we leaving behind? You know, so compelled by that dimension of 90, because, you know, I mean, in the past 5 years, I've seen so much environmental devastation. Um, so my husband and I understood the urgent need to institutionalize and up the game, which we did so. You got to up the game. How do you up the game?
How? Yes.
How do you up the game? Well,
Yes.
you got to get organized. You know, you have to register your company. I mean, hello. You know, so what we have done in conservation the past 30 decades, which I have been, you know, so my first taste of
30 decades. You mean 3 decades?
Yeah, long time. I don't wake up. What's next? So Mr. Michael Ranneberger was a speaker at Rotary Club of Nairobi, was he not? And I was attending that meal. And Mr. Michael Ranneberger, on his final day, like I was sitting there, you know, you didn't mention the letter from Eric Whitaker. Anyway, Eric Whitaker and I are sitting there waiting for Ambassador Ranneberger to run through the lobby of the embassy because I had an 8x10 blow up of 19 giraffes in the horizon, the landscape of Kitengela, which has now been fenced. And a dead giraffe was just found there yesterday. So, you know, it's compelling. We're looking at imminent biological collapse, Dr. Margreta. We're looking at imminent biological collapse.
And what are you doing? We're asking, what have you been doing in
so my
the
husband and I have
affirmative?
been supporting the Wildlife Foundation for at least as long as we got here.
Which does what? What does it do?
The Wildlife Foundation so the issue is that you've got to, if you need to save the environment, you have to monetize the environment. So the issue is private title and how it's affecting fragmenting the landscape, and the fragmentation and the subdivision is complete and utter mutilation. You know, you got to step back from it. So in the 30 years which I have been, you know, doing the Bruce Lee, you know, on conservation, it's not like, you know, I mean, there's been plenty of reform. And that's why I refer back to Michael Ranneberger, because one of the reforms at the time, you know, was some of the election issues, definitely the referendum.
And who was Michael Ranneberger?
Ranneberger? Who was Michael Ranneberger?
Yes. For our no. For our interview.
Ambassador.
Okay.
U.S. ambassador. And he, you know, I mean, let's go back to those years. So I think what I've done in the Wildlife Foundation is a very credible, the sorry about this. The benchmark for biodiversity, you know, as much as we can gather data, has been the bi-monthly game count of Nairobi National Park. You know, and if Mr. Ranneberger would come and see, he would say, "Good girl, Joan," without question, you know, because he really helped a lot in a lot of ways. And also who helped, I mean, if you want to hear a list, I think Ambassador Mark Bellamy, who remains in the State Department. Do you remember Mark Bellamy at all?
Go on, I'm asking about you. And
what you have done. Mark Bellamy, you know, these were helpful, useful contacts. These were helpful guys. And I got photos. I'm engaged with them like hell. And the Kitengela, I got pictures. And you know, we had a significant, in 2007 was that horrible election, and the post-election violence. I think RFP and Mbekasi was assassinated. My colleague Inga Burchard strapped herself, you know, and walked in, you know, with money, because we were paying on the lease scheme because we had to monetize We had to monetize the landscape. We had to monetize. So the best we
How
could do is,
how did you do that?
so we separated. We understood. And remember, the issue is land title and how it's devastating, and how what occurs. So the issue is first it occurs in Nairobi National Park, which is a gazetted national park of 23,000 acres. But urgently, if you didn't have intervention south of the park, you would enclose Nairobi National Park and make it a zoo. What we're seeing now in Lake Nakuru is a very tragic die-off. The euphorbia forest, the vegetation in the lake is dying, and it's dying because you've had this horrible error of land use and fragmentation. So what we did at the Wildlife Foundation is we came up with a monetization based on land title and acreage, and we started paying to the communities. And I don't know, and what helped us significantly was the absolute confusion in land title. There's a big chunk of land called sheep and goats. But essentially what we did with the Wildlife Foundation is to create a bona fide platform of which community could scream and shout and fight and have resources. No joke, sweetheart. No joke.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
No joke.
What other contributions or what other projects have you worked on with Rotary since 2004? Are there any special highlights besides your meeting Dr. Maria? And yes, tell us.
My first publisher was Barrick Maluka, who was a former member of Rotary Club of Nairobi. He didn't publish me through that. That was not my connection. But he was certainly, he was a former member of our club, Mr. Maluka, who was now campaigning. Oh gosh, Mr. Valuting that shape. So the issue is, you see, Margaret, is that times are really changing, and to have sensitivities of the arts and nature all in one room, it's just good to talk to like-minded people who care. Jessica's come you've come out several times. You're giving me the camera now. We can only do our best. I would love to snap my fingers and let it all go away. It's really an arduous task. So you need to have like-minded people to say, hey, what's going on, and keep going. I am so pleased. Now we're going to move forward. Hello, Pastor. Yesterday. All right, fine.
Tell us. Yes, well, one of your significant talents that we don't know so much about is yourself as a poet, a published poet. So tell us what inspires you and your poetry.
Margreta, so I'm born a Christian pastor's daughter, and can I talk to you what happened? So my great aunt is beatified in South Korea. She's enshrined. I mean, she's been canonized as a saint. So the thing is, I really don't want to talk too much about it, but I love God. I really love God. He's so close to me and everything. I'm so happy. And the thing with God is that and then I was an English major, I read like hell. So the issue with poetry is that the poet is the prophet, and I look at this. I freak my mother out when but the issue is, Margreta, when you read my books, do you cry? Sure, you better, because they're sad. So the issue is that suffering is a very sad thing. So I have in one of my books. No. I'm applying for this thing at the Career Society. So I write my letter. I write in my letter to the Career Society because I'm applying for this thing. I write, between my parents and I, we have suffered the worst of Korean history. My mother left Korea, in ashes and said, I hate Korea. You can imagine her history. First she's born, into Japanese occupation, and she's gorgeous. I mean, look at me, right? So like my mom, 17, 19, like 19, I don't know, 1928, so 17 is when she's in the bloom of her gourd beauty. And the Japanese, what the heck? She suffered. How do you turn it around? How do you make it better? Stay with me, my sister. Look, how do you turn it around? How do you make it better? How do you heal? We have no choice. It has to be you. It has to be within your heart. It has to be c'est moi. We have no choice. Religion is, everything's gone. Religion is gone. Family is gone. Arts are gone. I mean, Margareta, you're starving, you're killing yourself on it, but maybe we'll try it. The stuff that
Okay.
made you and me, the stuff that made you and me are gone. Are gone. That's gone. You know, sitting in church and listening to a sermon and you singing the hymns of God, that's gone. You know it and I know it. You know, the churches are empty. Everything is bulldozing. So the only choice you have is to say, God is within me. Okay? And we can say that coming from reading my books. Margaret, can we do a reading?
I think we can ask the president whether we have a moment to do that. Do you want to read it for us, one of your poems?
Yes, please do.
Oh, right now? I meant in the future. Wait, by Joan Sikand and Art by Hassan Fadul.
Okay.
So,
read us a poem.
wearing black, oh Margareta? Is there black in
No.
your clothing? What are you
There's
wearing?
a bit of a dress.
Is it black? The black was of a particular bite that year. Bitchy, wicked, tired, torn, fed up. The sorrow finally gave in. The walls caved in. Feminist age of fantastic ego. Imbalance, confusion, insanity. Have mercy. Forgive me, renew me, embrace me, resignation, and release. You are free. Safely through. Allow me safe passage through these wicked, fearful times without confusion, without hesitation, without sorrow, without tears. Allow me the love of my ancients, the depth of my father, the grace of my mother. No trouble, no loss, no pain, just joy, love tomorrow. Invite me then, O my holy temple, gates of prayer. With utmost reverence, I bow to you, worship you, devoted to you, sing hallelujah. Amen.
Amen.
Dualities, one more. You must learn how to separate the two, love or hate, now or later, life or death, rich or poor, fiction or reality, truth or lies, pleasure or pain, win or lose, tears or laughter. Hunger will strike, needs will arise, sorrow will come. Do pay heed to your warning, blessing, guidance. Pray.
Lovely. Lovely. Ooh, thank you. Wonderful.
I have many poems of, I have Om Namah Shivaya.
Thank you so much. Joan, I think this is marvelous. I think we have gotten deeper insight into you and your being and your commitments. And we're sorry that Dr. Marie isn't with us today, but we have
Mary
you.
Nelson.
Yes. And I'm sorry I didn't get to know her myself. I wasn't a Rotarian until just a few months, I think, around the time of her passing. So I'm very sorry I didn't, but we have you to share with us. And we're very grateful. Yes. So thank you very much. Maybe, perhaps President Ritesh has a question or a comment to make. President, may I take it over to you?
Yes, certainly. Thank you, Dr. Margareta. And thank you, Rotarian Joan, for sharing with us these interesting insights. And you've been a member of our club since 2004, which is quite a long time. And although you haven't quite shared with us the activities which you have been involved with at the club, but what I can share with Dr. Margareta is that when Dr. Marie Nelson, who's a very dear friend of yours, and you have mentioned some of her stories, I remember very clearly 3 years ago, when Dr. Marie Nelson was our vocational services chair. And there was a wonderful project she came up with where we was to go to the different Interact schools which have affiliation with Rotary Club of Nairobi. And Rotarian Joan actually took her guitar, went to
Uh-huh.
various schools, did some book readings,
I loved it.
and
I loved
distributed
it. I
books to
loved
the
it.
children.
I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. They were 8-year-olds. I went back, by the way.
Yes,
I went back with an art project about a year later.
yes. So I also
But yeah,
I
I
also
loved
recall
it.
that Rotarian Joan has been involved in fundraising activities. We had a wonderful 60s and 70s night, which was a successful fundraiser during the presidency of
No, it was a
Ramadan in
terrible
Ramadan.
fundraiser. We lost a
And
lot of
well,
money,
no,
but it was
was
fun.
good.
It was
It was
fun.
good. And Rotarian Joan
Yeah.
has also been involved in various activities. She has brought us some good speakers in the past many years. Um, I also know the generosity of Rotarian Joan, although you've been involved in many projects and you've not shared with us, but you have. And I do know that occasionally you just turn up to a club meeting bringing huge baskets full of avocados and all sorts of things from your wonderful garden just to share with us. And, and that actually tells us about the fellowship and the warmth and this feeling of family which you have with all of us, and we are eternally grateful for you.
I grew up in the church, but Ritesh Bhai, you don't call it Ritesh Bhai. How quickly I picked that up. Really, fellowship is such a beautiful word. It's such a wonderful word. And where you can find fellowship meaning community of like-minded thinkers. I'm sure there's something you like about me. I don't know what, but maybe something.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. No, we're grateful to you, Joan. You are a
You didn't even you
wonderful.
did yeah, my religious not affiliate, well, my religious I, di- I, di- I don't know. I was raised in the church, as you know. My father was a master's candidate at McCormick Theological Seminary, so I was raised in the church and everything that went with that. And then I went to a Jewish undergraduate and a Jesuit law school, and now I'm married to a
Wow.
Hindu Punjabi. And one of my
Sure.
books is Mind is Sacred Place, where and that was a book I loved working on. And in that book, um, why I liked working that, I don't know, there's a poem in there called My Black Robe. And my father and this, how much more time do we have? Do you want to hear the story? I'm in
Tell us
Abu
the
Dhabi.
story.
I'm in Abu Dhabi, and I'm taking images because what happened is that when you create something, it's like Mozart. He really didn't want to hear it. He wanted to. It was an inspiration. So I was working on Mind a Sacred Place, and at the time, Devinder was flying all over the place, and it was really good fun because he'd throw me in the plane with him. He had work in Dubai, so I took the taxi. I was studying then the Great Mosque in Abu Dhabi, and I used it in my book Black Robe. And the thing is, so I get there, and they're really particular because the only thing you can do in the UAE is go to Abu Dhabi, and this whole Muslim thing. And you get there, and I got there, and if they don't like the way you're dressed, you have to go downstairs, leave ID, and put chador on, the black robe. And they didn't like. I was wearing linen pants, and anyway, so the black robe was written with the image of Abu Dhabi, the Grand Site Mosque. And I write about black robe about my father because my father would wear a black robe because he was a Presbyterian minister. What is the presbyter? What is the presbyter? It's the pulpit, because in Presbyterian philosophy called evangelical Christianity, and the pastor is endowed with the evangelical authority to speak a sermon in a dedication to God, and you would ascend the pulpit, which is the presbyter. So he would wear a black robe, and I wrote this poem, The Black Robe, which is published in Mind a Sacred Place. And I would love to read that, but maybe whenever you're ready, because maybe not now. But that's okay. I hope we got friends. but I was really pleased to release that, and that poem really meant a lot to me because um, it's religious authority which is lacking in society today because nobody wants to do it because it's been so convulsed, it's been so mutilated, religious authority that you can't even recognize it, and the poor Pope is hanging on. Well, he's one, and I hope he's trying.
I think so.
Well, we know, Margaret and I, that America, the Christian church. I mean, I don't know what we're going to do, but that's the state of spirituality today, and that's why my apologies if I'm being out of.
No, I think
Maybe
one
it's
thing
you inside.
can,
There's nothing you can do. You have no choice. You must awake. You must arise.
I think bringing us back to Rotary, I think one of the reasons that you fit in so well, Joan, is because Rotary is sectarian basically, but it's the values that are universal in every religion, whether it's in Hinduism, Buddhism, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, whichever one you find, service above self, loving your neighbor as yourself, putting your God first, and yes, kindness, the gift of kindness. So I thank you so much. I think this is beautiful. And I think rather than you reading the rest of your books, you can invite everyone to buy your books. And I think the next time we have a Rotary meeting, maybe you could bring some of your books to share with us.
Yes. Well, the issue is that again, so I've got this publisher, and he's supposed to sell your books, and as Ritesh Bhai will tell you, what is the painting? Being an artist is good fun. It's great fun. Why not? Why not? Margaret, I want to talk to you carefully. How are you feeling? Are you okay?
No,
I did this play out of my poetry. Did I tell you about Harry Abali? How much time do we have?
We don't.
It's Jessica and David. Don't even go there. What the heck? Can we not?
Oh, that's okay. That's fine.
You don't even have to understand my Margreta. I don't like that you're not well. I don't like that you're ill.
Thank you very much indeed, Rotarian Joan and Dr. Margareta, for this very insightful talk. And Dr. Margareta, this is a wonderful initiative in order to commemorate our 90th anniversary. And thank you for arranging all these wonderful interviews with our club members. Rotarian Joan, just to cap up, you're an individual of many facets, and I'm very grateful and honored actually to know you. And I would give that credit to Rotary Club of Nairobi for getting us together as a family, and continue doing everything which you're doing very passionately, whether it's the writing, whether it's for conservation, and also for keeping us all together as family, since you are a true believer in the fellowship. So thank you so much.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.